All right, so as folks continue to join us in our virtual Zoom room, I'll go ahead and get us started. Good evening, everyone. I'm Julia, a bookseller at Politics and Prose. We are live with Tommy Siegel and Ben Thornewill, who you may recognize from Jukebox The Ghost. They're discussing Siegel's hilarious and timely debut of I Hope This Helps, Comics and Cures for 21st Century Panic. You can follow the link in the chat to purchase the book directly from Politics and Prose, but not that one because that one's mine. We hope you will engage with the discussion by utilizing the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to get to everyone's questions in the last portion of the discussion, but we apologize in advance if we don't have time for yours this evening. Before we begin, we want to sincerely thank you for joining us. We're so thankful to our family of loyal customers who keep our business and our spirits afloat. It's my pleasure to introduce our speakers. Tommy Siegel is a cartoonist and musician who tries his best to juggle both pastimes with assistance from copious amounts of coffee. As lead guitarist and singer for his solo projects and his power pop trio Jukebox The Ghost, Tommy has played over 1,000 shows around the world, including festivals like Bonnaroo and Lollapalooza and late night television programs like Letterman and Conan. As a cartoonist, his challenge to draw 500 consecutive days of comics led to a viral fan base and hundreds of thousands worldwide. His debut collection includes 200 pages of comics, essays, and extremely helpful guides to coping with 21st century panic. With comics titled Choose Your Social Anxiety Coping Mechanism and What Your Coffee Drink of Choice Says About You, I Hope This Helps offers clever and sardonic commentary on our phone-obsessed, social media-driven culture, as well as a series of devastatingly funny relationship comics starring his popular Candy Hearts characters. Joining Tommy is bandmate Ben Thornewill. In addition to his own solo work, Ben is a singer, songwriter, and pianist in Jukebox The Ghost. Born in Louisville, Kentucky, he currently resides in Brooklyn, New York, where you can find him working out of his home studio as a songwriter and audio engineer for TV, film, and musical theater. You can find him across social media platforms under @BenThornewill. On behalf of Politics and Prose, please join me in welcoming Tommy Siegel and Ben Thornewill.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yay, big applause, big applause. Hey, Tommy, how are you?
How's it going? Long time no see.
I know, what have you been up to? Making books?
Yeah. So for full disclosure for everybody who's here, so some of you might mostly know me from cartooning. I'm guessing most of you know that I play in a band called Jukebox The Ghost. Ben is my bandmate, and we've been potted up in quarantine together, making a brand new record.
And we have spent so many years like doing interviews together as a side-by-side endeavor as we answer questions like, where did you get your band name from and what's your favorite city? And it's nice to now be in a position where I get to ask you a few questions and then field the questions that come in. So yeah, as Julia mentioned, we're gonna chit chat for a minute, and then Tommy's gonna read a chapter from the book. Then we'll chit chat for another little bit, and then we'll let the questions start rolling in. I think there's a little Q&A thing that you can ask the questions, and I'll see them and pick them, and that should be good. But so yeah, I mean, Tommy, you and I have spent pretty much what feels like our entire lives together, and you always drew. You never stopped drawing, and to the point where when we started our band, and we chose the name Jukebox The Ghost, you just, the little doodle of a ghost, and now that's like the brand. So like from the beginning of forever, you have been drawing. I know it goes back to your childhood as well, but then as you started, doing it on the road, and I'll sort of let you tell the story like how that got going. But I wanted to ask if there was a moment when it transitioned from just this thing that you're doing into, whoa, this is bigger than what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a sequence of little moments. So obviously and I'll get into this a little bit with the chapter I'm reading, because I thought part of the chapter I'm reading, the reason I thought it'd be fun is because it's actually it's like 90% stuff that I cut from the book, because we decided that making this whole long thing about touring was maybe kind of like too distracting from the rest of the book, which doesn't have a lot to do with touring. But I don't know if I sent this original chapter to you, Ben. So there might be there's some Easter eggs for you in there for sure. It's a little bit exciting.
Cool.
But yeah, to me, it was like this just sequence of little moments stacked on top of each other. So like, yeah, having a few experiences going viral in like the first month of doing 500 comics was really like, I don't know. It was just a nice push to be like, keep going. Something's working. It's not working all the time, but like, just keep going. And yeah, it wasn't until like, I would say a year in until I felt like,
so that there's the
somewhere.
South by Southwest, and for those of you that don't know, South by Southwest is a great and very intense music festival in Austin, Texas, and everyone converges, and you're playing 3 shows a day, and you're exhausted. And while we were there, Stephen Hawkins died, and you drew this beautiful, doodle cartoon, and Ringo Starr retweeted you. That was and we were all like astounded. So where was that? How early on was that?
That was 3 weeks in.
No.
Yeah. Which is crazy. I mean, it's funny because that moment was so intense that I mean, like, I'm a Beatles obsessive and have been since I was, 12. So the idea that I would get to interact with a Beatle in any kind of way is just totally insane. So yeah, that was before the cartoons, I think, had really found their footing, but it felt like this spiritual moment of just like, keep going, because like, it's weird because we play music, but I feel like Jukebox the Ghost's odds of interacting with Ringo Starr very small, but somehow this cartoon made its way around. Like,
the irony is, after 10 years of making music, Ringo didn't lift up. I mean, why would? There's a million bands out there, but then I think that's so funny. That's amazing. I didn't put together that it was that quickly thereafter.
Well, I started the comic a day on February 12th, I believe, in 2018, and so South by Southwest, I guess, was like March. I mean, I guess it might have been 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks in.
That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's the bit. You didn't know what was.
No.
You were just doing it to do it, to like have a thing. So my other question that I wanted to ask is, when we're all together so much, especially on tour, the conversation, you will pass up from the back of the tour bus or whatever, like a little bit, some commentary, be like, okay, what should go here, or is this too much, or am I allowed to say this, and so like my question for you is, because you are straddling this line of like social commentary, political commentary, and just jokes, like, is there a line? Do you have a metric for what is too far? Do you ever worry?
No, you just outlined what the metric is, which is that I showed them to other people, like you and Jesse, and I'll text it to my friend Dan or my friend Billy, or just kind of text them my comics to people to be like, is this okay? I feel like at this point I have kind of like, 10 or 15 people that I know that I can send a comic and get an honest opinion. But yeah, I try not to punch down. I don't like being mean.
Right.
But it's a fine line because, a lot of humor, is just sort of, that twist can feel accidentally mean to people, even if you don't intend it. So yeah, it's tough. I've definitely failed my own smell test many times before.
In that same vein, do you like? Because I feel like when you write a song and it's like, sometimes you write songs and you think that's just a song. Sometimes you write a song and you're like, that is a great song, and you know it. Does that happen to you with cartoons?
Yes, but it's not always correct.
Okay,
that's what I think is interesting. Like sometimes I'll do a comic and I'll be like, this one's gonna be a smash, and like people are just like, I don't understand.
Too many layers of inside jokes
or just like, why is the Quaker Oats man in a thong or whatever?
That's just a good question anyway. That's something I've been puzzling over. All of your, branded gentlemen in not very much clothing is a lot. Well, do you want to read this chapter? I'm excited to learn some things about our life.
Yeah. No, it sounds great. Thanks for providing. This is so surreal. It's very funny to have you ask me questions. So it's just like, we're so used to getting questions from other people in band situations.
interviews would be so much better if you just let the band interview or the person interview themselves. And like you and I have spent so many years, it's almost like you and I could probably guess the questions that we would ask each other. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is fun. I can't wait. All right.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna do this chapter. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy this, Ben. There's some Easter eggs for you.
Awesome.
So some of this appeared in my book, which is I hope this helps. Let me hold on. Look at that. You can order it from Politics and Prose. Oh my God.
Hey.
Wow. Which, by the way, Politics and Prose, amazing independent bookstore in DC. If you've just popped on from the internet and are unacquainted, they rule. Like when we lived in DC, I went there many, many times to see authors speak, to pick up books. So anyways, they're great. But there's a chapter in there that talks about touring, but it doesn't get into too much detail. It was whittled down from a longer thing. So here we go. The chapter is called Van Doodles. And it's preceded by a cartoon about the different kinds of Econoline vans. So that's how it segues into this. I realize I should probably interject at this point to explain further why I know so much about Econoline vans, and simultaneously why I started taking cartooning seriously. This is my Batman origin story, but instead of wealthy murdered parents and a black leather fetish, it's the tale of a bored 20-something in a dark Econoline van who has never solved a crime of any kind. I spend most of my time as a touring musician, so my marathon of 500 comics in 500 days were often drawn in the back of a tour van or frantically scribbled between obligations at a music venue. Throughout the project, I got asked one particular question often. How do you have the time to do it all on tour? But the truth is, there's an enormous gulf between other people's perception of your daily life and the actual grinding machinations that make up a day on the road. Let's walk through a typical day on tour so that you can start to see how this dual creative life became not only possible, but necessary. So put on some 3-day-old underwear, some week-old skinny jeans, and chug some gas station coffee. You're on tour, baby. 11 a.m. Partially rested and nursing a stale cup of hotel lobby coffee, you wander across the parking lot towards the tour van. Heaving open the sliding door with all your weight, the glamorous Mercedes-Benz exterior melts away to reveal an interior somewhere between a college dorm room and a shantytown for hipsters. You are deep into a 2-month tour, and living conditions have grown increasingly bleak. A plastic water bottle filled with urine falls onto the pavement.
Who would do that?
One of our band members, who wishes to remain unnamed, has trained himself to be able to pee in bottles in nearly any driving scenario, regardless of how bumpy the road is. A skill which I hold no ill will towards, but have never been able to master myself. You gingerly pick it up and dispose of it in a hotel trash can. My sincerest apologies, Radisson. Pistachio shells and popcorn kernels litter the cracks between seat belts, many of which no longer function and are sealed over with neon orange gaff tape. Somewhere, a single unmatched sock wails mournfully. The decorations are sparse but deliberate, mostly bumper stickers picked up from truck stops deep in red state America. Bumper stickers like, "Don't have cash? Wife and kids have it all." And "Diesel fumes make me horny," which, by the way, both of those are real stickers that we purchased. After some bickering and intense bargaining with your tour manager, who has promised the venue a timely load-in, you spend exactly 27 minutes at a Waffle House. Spinning the Russian roulette wheel of life, you order your eggs over easy despite the numerous warnings on the menu not to do so, and watch your vital signs carefully with every bite. 11:30 a.m. The drive commences. And since you're not on the West Coast for this stretch of tour, which generally has lovely vistas and interesting terrain, you're looking at wilting median grass, blurs of roadkill whizzing by, kudzu, strip malls, and truck stops for 4 to 8 hours of diesel-guzzling travels. It's the kind of drive where a machine that makes commemorative pennies at a state-sponsored rest stop become positively thrilling, and a successful round at a claw machine borders on sexual pleasure. You could be in Ohio, and likely are. Ohio is a state, but it is also a state of mind. If you unfocus your mind while behind the wheel and use your mental willpower, you could be in Ohio at any moment you desire to be, and you might as well be. Namaste. First, you attempt to read, but the podcast about the grisly details of murder scene forensics blasting from the front makes it difficult to read your beginner's guide to meditation that your parents gave you for the holidays. or the great American novel that a friend lent to you that you will likely never be able to focus on long enough to read in a moving vehicle filled with unpredictably talkative man-children, yourself included. You try to listen to music, but you're sick of music. Sick of the idea of music, even. You try to listen to a podcast, but it's synaptically challenging to listen to a podcast when there's already a podcast playing in the same vicinity. 2 Ira glasses in an enclosed space is a violation of Newton's law. And yes, I will continue to use this as his plural form unless he personally tells me to stop. Your equilibrium feels slightly off and your mind immediately darts back to the over-easy eggs. You check your phone for the 157th time. The morning internet rush hour of cat gifs has slowly faded into the noon rush of smiling selfies posted as an obvious cry for help. You consider whether you should post your own selfie cry for help, but it's impossible to get a shot that doesn't reveal that you're sitting on old pistachio shells. You hear the sound of a water bottle filling up somewhere in the van behind you and quickly fumble for your earbuds. 1:30 p.m. You stop for gas, bolt inside, and the line for the bathroom is 75% composed of people who were in the van with you 10 seconds ago. Knowing that you're in a time crunch, you quickly select your lunch from the snack displays in the Flying J truck stop. It consists of the following. And this is the cartoon that I had inserted in the book here. Let me pull it up.
This is just it's all so real, Tommy.
It's too real. So here's your truck stop choices. You've got a 6-month-old egg sandwich, the manly turd of despair, the world's saddest banana, and fuck it, it's popcorn o'clock somewhere. And I should add as well that this is my cartoon that it seems to resonate with a lot of musicians of what touring, everyone thinks touring is like versus what touring is actually like. So, anyways, back to the narrative. Somehow you have already spent your entire per diem. 1:45 p.m. The drive recommences. Podcasts are abandoned and conversation begins. This is a grave mistake, as it leads to a heated debate on a topic so exceptionally trivial that you will question whether it ever even happened at all after the fact. Some examples of debates that escalated to the point of genuine emotional frustration in the van include: 1. Whether or not Taco Bell is technically food. I should note here that I took the hardline stance that it was only food if you define food as that which goes in your mouth.
I'm still pissed.
Number 2, whether or not the word punny is a pun in and of itself. Number 3, whether or not Paul Giamatti is the greatest actor of all time. Let's see. Disagreements are clarified until you realize that neither person is arguing what they think they're arguing about and are only using verbal communication as a means of expressing inner frustration at having eaten a half-rotten banana for lunch. Hours pass. Another diesel fill-up. Another podcast starts blasting from the front of the van. 3:45 p.m. You do push-ups and sit-ups by the gas station median in an attempt to loosen your increasingly stiff back and neck while the tank fills up. The smell of gasoline is overpowering, but you manage to get through 30 push-ups without a bandmate poking you with a stick out of boredom.
Also, I have so much to apologize for. Continue.
No, these are great. The van is moving again. You check your phone for the 1,567th time. It is low tide on the internet once again. Many dog gifts have now washed ashore. A pistachio shell appears in the bottom of your shoe. You spend 10 minutes pondering how this could have possibly transpired before concluding that there are larger powers at work, good and evil, in the architecture of your day-to-day life. And then I've got this guide of, let's see if I can find it here. Hi, I'm a rock musician. Cartoon that I did. Hi, I'm a rock musician. I know a lot about music theory. Nope. Scales. Nope. How to succeed in my field. Nope. Which fast food places won't make you poop too bad? Yes. Okay, 5:45 p.m. You arrive at the venue 45 minutes late. The rest of the day, which consists of sound checking, playing your songs for fans, and drawing on fans' arms at the merch table, is interesting, stimulating, generally fun, and probably the bit you want to hear about. But I'm going to halt the second-person walkthrough and deprive you of the good stuff to make my very simple point. Tour is mostly incredibly boring, and you're essentially a trucker in skinny jeans. A trucker in skinny jeans who has a lot of time on his hands. Here's my illustration of a trucker in skinny jeans. Many years ago on a long drive, as I mindlessly doodled the same thing I always end up drawing in the van, a dinosaur with a human nose, our band's keyboardist, Ben, over here.
Hey, that's me.
That's you. Ben interrupted my careful contour of a brontosaurus's remarkably large nose from behind the wheel and made a request. Tommy, can you draw me shrimp having a party on the belly of a goat? He said, not knowing the unsettlingly prolific hobby he had just unlocked. Sitting in shotgun, I obliged. Somehow, I still possess this drawing, and I can't pull up the actual physical version of it right now, so I'm away from it at the moment, but this was the very first van doodle of the shrimp having a party on the belly of a goat. Next, and I can't remember if this was you or Jesse, requested an octopus carrying a bucket filled with redacted. And then I have a footnote in this chapter that says, I've decided not to put this image in this book. This is theoretically at worst supposed to be a PG-13 sort of a book. But since you've read all the way to the bottom of a footnote, I suppose I should spill the beans and tell you that he wanted me to draw an octopus carrying a bucket full of dicks, and that I did as he asked, and everyone agreed that it was very good. But you'll just have to imagine it for yourself, and shame on you for doing so. Then everyone wanted a turn. We tweeted some of the first results on the band's Twitter feed, and people started requesting their own. The requests came in by the dozens, and eventually it spiraled into an endless back and forth via our band's social media. Here's what we learned about social media metrics over time. We post something like, we have a new record out. Here's how to get it. 11 likes, 0.08% of your fans saw this post. You post something like, we have a tour coming up. Here's a picture of us playing on stage. 150 likes, 1.2% of your fans saw this post. Literally just a picture of a cat playing a piano. 117,000 likes, 10,000% of your fans saw this post and then shared it with people that they've never met, who then shared it with Indonesian Facebook like farms, who then followed your page expecting more cat memes. So every few days on tour, we get a message from somebody asking when we were going to play their city when we had just played it the night before. Facebook hadn't deemed tour announcements as being worthy of the algorithm's attention. Though advertised as a tool initially to eradicate band email lists, running a band's social media page had started to feel more like trying to start the wave at a baseball game by flailing wildly and hoping that masses of people took pity on you and joined in. The problem, of course, is much larger than Facebook. Music doesn't compete in its own world like it used to. We used to compete with other bands. We competed with them in Rolling Stone, Spin, Pitchfork, record store shelves. It was a simpler game, and we all knew the rules. But in the last 10 years, you name the gatekeeper, they've been replaced by algorithms and payola playlists on streaming services. Music, like all information, has been swallowed into the all-consuming beast we call the social internet. We're no longer competing with other piano-led pop rock acts for your attention. We're competing with Kim Kardashian's feud with Taylor Swift. We're competing with cat memes. And in an era of outrage and immediate visual stimulation, the 40-minute album is an unadapted dinosaur. An album requires intimacy. It requires headphones. It requires an attention span longer than a gerbil's. We think of social media as a vehicle for just about anything, but the nature of the medium does advantage certain kinds of content. Brief flurries of text, shocking headlines, pictures, any kind of visual ephemera that can be digested in under 5 seconds. Music just can't compete. We're no longer competing against other bands for your attention. We're competing with the Kardashians, and we can't compete, though we've tried. And that is accompanied by an illustration of Kim Kardashian showing her ass, and on her ass it says, please check out my band. Yeah, you've got the illustration pulled up there. Beautiful. And yet something felt like it was missing. I had drawn hundreds and hundreds of fan requests, but I still wasn't sure what I wanted to draw on my own. I'd gotten bored of honoring requests to draw the band as Lego figurines, Harry Potter characters, potatoes, Marvel superheroes, and even as a single multi-headed cactus. Like songwriting, I figured there was probably a creative well waiting to be tapped, but I didn't know how to turn on the faucet myself. So I thought I'd force myself to draw every day just to see what would happen. And thankfully, I had a career with a lot of downtime built in to reawaken a dormant hobby. Fast forward, and here we are enjoying the fruits of my labor, including my masterpiece on the following page, which I revealed to the world on my 467th day of daily comics. This is true. When my mind had completely unraveled from overworking myself amidst a steady diet of gas station snacks, probably while driving through Ohio. You're welcome. And here is the illustration. He single, he Pringle, he ready to mingle. And that's the end of that chapter.
Yay!
Unedited. There's urine.
It is so real. I don't know how to like listen to that as anything close to an objective observer because it's all so real. But I'm thinking people, the jokes are there, but they're not jokes. That's just what happens.
Yeah, no,
right?
There's no jokes in there. That's like just literal.
Like that's actually how it is, and it's so funny that I really love that you dig into the behind the scenes because the parts about touring and shows that the people actually don't want to know are also the parts that gave you the fodder for this huge creative endeavor.
Yeah, totally.
Because if tour wasn't this like really difficult, mind-numbing, endless hours, part of your life, when would you ever think like, I'm just going to take requests on Twitter and draw for the next 3 hours?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, actually, I have a question for you. Do you feel like I missed something in particular about the tour experience in that essay? Because I'm sure I did.
Oh, you missed anything about the touring experience?
Like the day-to-day, Like that's very much my like when I'm thinking about the popcorn and the rotten banana, that's a very me perspective on what lunch is on tour.
No. I mean, my version of that is it's my like primal drive to find a Waffle House every day.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, my Waffle House is your banana, right? Like if I didn't have Waffle House, everything could just crumble. And if you don't have that gas station banana waiting for you, what are you going to eat? Can it be smart food popcorn? Because that's going to be waiting in the green room and everything goes down. So I think like all that really resonates. I have to say it was actually very validating to hear you describe a lot of it that way and to contextualize the podcasts coming through the speakers at the same time as the podcast between, the other bandmate and the sound guy or whoever that devolves into an endless argument about nothing while the podcasters are also arguing about nothing.
Yeah.
And if you turn one down, it just doesn't work because no one's gonna be like, can you turn off the podcast so I can hear this argument better?
That's very true.
So no, it all really resonates. And I had a little PTSD in there, like, oh right, that's what this is.
I knew the Taco Bell argument would give you PTSD. We got genuinely heated on that one. I think we all do apologize to each other about.
I think people I was actually pissed. I clearly still hold a little bit of anger inside me about that, and it's more that it kept coming up. I bet we've had 8 hours total of like actual heated argument about that.
Taco belligerence.
Yeah, and then every 2 weeks on anytime, because I love it. Jesse and I love going to Taco Bell late at night, and especially in those tours where like you were having, you weren't eating after a certain hours before.
Right.
You weren't gonna eat it. You were annoyed that we weren't just going to the hotel because who wants to getting Taco Bell? You don't want to sit in the Taco Bell drive-thru. And so then you just be like, you can get it, but it's not food. And then the whole thing would start over again. The other thing I wanted to both apologize but not apologize for is poking you while you're doing push-ups. Because I thought about that from
I always know it's a sign of affection. I've always known that.
When I thought about that, I literally thought, that's a highlight of a tour for me. The feeling of seeing Tommy, outside of a Love's, just surrounded by trucks, just like in the parking lot, just like doing push-ups, and I can just run over, and you would coil, you would like turn away to try to.
Well, it's a very vulnerable body position to be in. Like you're totally clenched and somebody pokes you and you're like, it's like
All these truckers watching this boy do push-ups.
Well, what do you think? Should we jump into the?
Yeah, let's do some questions. So yeah, I've got a whole bunch queued up here.
Great.
It looks like there's a thumbs up mechanism that'll put some to the top. I'm still going to do my own censoring.
Great.
Because the question with the most thumbs up is a little base. I will do that. This is a little, this is an easy one. And then we'll get into some like more questiony questions. But
Great.
The question is which, it's not relevant to anything, which is why we're just going to do this quick. Which fast food places don't make you poop too bad?
Well, you're asking the experts here. Well, I don't know, actually. To be honest, I'm not really sure. I think I don't know. They're all kind of bad. I mean,
they're all bad in their own way. And
yeah, they're different. Like you could be like, oh, Subway's not as bad as Taco Bell, but I don't think so. And when I really think, it depends what you're ordering.
And you got to listen to your body.
Yeah.
You know, if you walk into I don't know. Yeah, if you walk into a Taco Bell and it doesn't feel like the place that you're supposed to be, you leave that Taco Bell.
Yeah. Yeah. Not all Taco Bells are the same. You have to be very careful.
Okay.
But yeah. Good question. I mean, like, obviously you're going to be better off with like fast casual stuff. Like, you know, when you find a Chipotle, you're like, this is amazing. But
that is true. That's not really fast food. But that's a debate for another day.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to take a question from here and I'm going to expand it a little bit. So the question is, did you hear from Last Week Tonight / John Oliver about the Pringles man? But then my other question for you is you do such a great job at engaging and sort of poking like celebrities or people or things that you want to engage with to try to like, you know, keep it running and see who will engage and who will have the conversation. So I guess my question is like, how do you do that? How do you decide to do that? Who do you decide to like, you know, tweet at John Oliver and be like, hey, John Oliver, Pringles man stuff. And also, did you hear from John Oliver?
So the John Oliver thing. So for some background, I did not see the episode. I saw the clip. But in this, I guess, a few days ago, Last Week Tonight, John Oliver made some joke about like, what does the rest of the Pringle man's body look like? What do the Pringle man's nipples look like? And I don't think he was making a reference to my thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if a writer on the show had seen one of those Pringle man drawings and sort of subconsciously like put it into this like this monologue thing. Like, but I don't know. I mean, I tweeted at them to be like, just to sort of be like, hey, like if you need more nude portraits of the Pringle man, I've been studying him for years. I have hundreds of examples of what the Pringle man's body looks like. So hit me up, you know. But no, I have not heard from anybody. And as for the celebrity thing, I don't know. I feel like I try not to do it that much. It's more like if somebody, it's like usually other people come up with the idea. Like they'll like subtweet under, like, for example, like recently I posted a comic about making fun of the different kinds of podcasts. And one of them is very clearly poking fun at Mark Maron. And somebody just tweeted at Mark Maron being like, hey, you're in this comic. And then he tweeted back at it. And I think that it usually happens on Twitter because if you have a verified account, you have there's that weird stratified feed where you can get only notifications from verified accounts, right? So I think like celebrities are only checking the verified thing. And so even though, you know, we in Jukebox The Ghost are nobodies, we still like pop up in that.
As far as Twitter's concerned, we're both Beyonce.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the same, stratified help.
A couple of questions on here on that same note is there's one for the Pringle man and one for the Quaker Oats man, which is sort of what is your obsession with the Pringle man and the Quaker Oats man?
Well, I would have to flip that question back on the audience, because I only continue doing the Pringle Man because the market demands it from me. I did it once, and it people really enjoyed it, and they really shared it, and I did it again, and it happened again. Every time I draw a nude thing of the Pringle Man, it's a guaranteed smash. So
my follow-up question is,
I just stick with it.
What do you think that says about the people of this world?
Well, so for me, I view it as kind of like, to me, it's like a sort of sarcastic send up of branding and what that is, because like, it's like corporations like that would love to be able to harness our sexual desire to get for us to get Pringles, but they can't, or at least they're not allowed to yet. And so I guess my thing with the Pringle Man is I'm sort of imagining what the future of advertising is. And honest to God, I would not be surprised at all if they co-opted that idea and used it for real within 5 years. Maybe not the Quaker Oats, man, because it's a little more scary somehow. But everyone's just trying to get everyone's attention. And I think the brands are now in that place too. And what could get people's attention more than showing your brand mascot's whole body? I mean, my goal with it was almost to make people disgusted by Pringles, like that they would imagine they would open the can and a tiny little nude man would crawl out. Like, I think that it's sort of a wash. Like, some people, I think are excited.
Your cartoons have affected positively or negatively the sale of Pringles?
I've wondered that, because enough of those have gone viral, and most of them not from my account, like from these other meme accounts that have reused the Pringle stuff. But their marketing team has got to have seen it already. And I just want to be a fly on the wall so bad to be at that marketing meeting where they were discussing, like, yeah, another one of those nudes popped up. It's on the front. Should we do something? Should we order a takedown? And they're like, I don't know. Maybe it's good. And they're like, yeah, I guess we'll leave it. I guess we'll let it stay up.
It's still brand recognition, right?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it's bad for them if the consumers all think that there's tiny naked men in all those cans. But I don't. I mean, maybe it's good for them.
We're about to move on to another question, but maybe it's that there is a naked man, and if they embrace it, people will realize how correct it is.
It could be it too.
Okay, moving on. There's a couple of questions about how you draw. So, Alice asked, do you draw on a tablet, or do you always draw on paper and scan? Related question, do you ever use other media for art?
So I used to use pen and paper. For the first 9 months of the 500 Days of Comics project, I was doing mostly on paper and then scanning it in and editing it in Photoshop. Then I got an iPad, and that changed everything. I got one of those screens that it's like a plastic stick-on screen that kind of gives you like a little bit of texture, so it has kind of like the roughness of paper. And getting that along with an Apple Pencil, it simulates the feeling of the real thing about as close as you could get, but with all the digital tools that an iPad has, like Procreate, which is an amazing program. So
that was actually one of the questions, is now that you've discovered Procreate, will you ever go back to traditional Sharpie and scrap paper?
For fun, but as far as for like web comics, it's kind of unbeatable, because I mean, color is just like, it's so nice to be able to color easily. I don't know how I do color comics on paper. I guess with watercolors or something, but
yeah, let's do that in the band van.
Yeah, right.
Watercolor kit and...
Oh yeah, I guess markers would work, but not really. It wouldn't look that good.
I like that. An anonymous attendee, very brave, asked, Tommy, you've mentioned before that you hate listening to your own voice in your music. How does reading your own book compare?
Well, this was okay because I can't hear myself. So I'm just talking like I normally am. I don't have to watch this later. If I watched it later, I would have that experience.
I think I'm the most qualified person to give you feedback, because I've heard you sing a lot and I've heard you talk also a fair amount, and I thought you did a really good job.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate that, Benjamin.
There are, all right, we're rocking through these questions. Wait, because I'm going to find one that's more book related, but what was your favorite music video to make? What is your favorite to watch back now?
I think my favorite it's a tie. I like Everybody's Lonely and Hollywood. Those are my two favorites. And they were both very fun to make. So I don't know if I could choose one or the other. They're our best music videos and they were the most fun to make.
Yep. Okay, here's a more. Okay, wait. I want to find there was one that I was debating. It's actually this is
also, wouldn't you agree, Ben, on those two?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
hands down.
Yeah,
hands down. Okay, this is I think actually a really. Here's the question. Love your comics. Do you ever feel that they're contributing more to the national divide through the satirical commentary sometimes?
Oh yes.
Yeah. It's a solid yes.
Well, and I haven't figured out how to reconcile with that. I mean, I try to, so something I try to do is not ride the wave that everyone's on and try and come up with an angle that not a lot of people are talking about. That's when I feel like the political comics are the best, is if they're introducing a topic into the conversation that people aren't talking about. If I can do that, then I am really excited. Like the one from a couple of years ago about the Electoral College, that sparked a big conversation. And I think that like we should be talking about it. And people, some people might dig further in because of that conversation, but the first step is having the conversation. So, but yes, do I worry that my cartoons, because algorithms are incentivized to sort of push the most extreme ideas to the surface, are part of the worsening of discourse in America? Absolutely. I'm concerned.
I will say though, for those who like might not be that familiar with Tommy as a person and Tommy's sort of ethos or what he works in, maybe you've seen a couple sort of slightly more incendiary political commentary. There are few people that I know in my life that are as well educated and well informed as you are, Tommy. Like,
thanks,
it's
man.
not like you're finding an edge and just trying to poke, right? Like whenever you're doing one of those, I know that you understand what it could mean. You know who it might offend. You know who it might be able to educate, and that it's a very like conscious effort.
Yeah, I try to, but it is interesting. I've had instances where I have stirred up the bee's nest in a way that I don't think ended up being productive. But on the other hand, I don't know if I, as an individual, making comics about things that I believe, if I can really be to blame for the algorithm incentivization process that they're being put through. And I don't know how to reckon with that, but I don't know.
Also, is that your job? Right? Like, is it? And I don't know, actually, maybe. How much is that your responsibility?
Yeah, no, I mean, I also try and do comics about how Facebook and algorithms are bad. So I don't know. I mean, there is part of me that sometimes I'll have that experience where a cartoon goes viral politically, and then sometimes it'll go viral like, for example, I had a cartoon recently went viral in the kind of right-wing militia circle. And that's where it gets weird, because I don't know, am I riling them up, or were they just looking for something that fit the narrative that they need to continue being riled up? And I don't know, but it's always scary to get like it was like, I think a month ago, I got like so many death threats from psychos, and it was especially surreal because I just posted the comic and then went on a camping trip by myself for a few days and checked my phone when I was at a gas station, like heading out of town. I was like, oh my God.
Have you figured out how to handle that? Like for you, like, cause that I can't, that's, getting death threats and that much anger thrown at you. That's hard.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I've sort of come to the rule that, and I talk about this a little bit in the book, but that it's just, if somebody's giving you a bad vibe, just block them. You know, I think that technology companies, these social media companies, are counting on us creating spaces for uncivil debate to sell ads. That's essentially, the algorithms are incentivized to heat the conversation up to a certain level so that everybody's fighting and they can't stop looking at their phones. Right. So yeah, I don't know. That's their incentivization structure.
It's hard to handle. All right, I think that's a great answer.
So I just block people if they're giving me a bad vibe, and I've had people reach out from like, they'll create another account and be like, you hate free speech, like why did you block me? And it's usually like, no, I believe in free speech. I just think you're really annoying and like a bad and like a bad vibe, you know? So right. I mean, to me, it's like you're putting your art online. It's less helpful to think of it as a debate club and more helpful to think of it as an art gallery. And if you had put your stuff up in an art gallery and someone was just walking around the art gallery all day going like, the artist is a moron, he's a psychotic liberal, like you'd be like, get out of my art gallery, you know? Right. So I think that's a more helpful way of thinking about it than like as if as a cartoonist I'm supposed to like host a debate club for the entire world.
I think that's a really great way to think about it. It's a healthy way to think about it.
Yeah.
And also, like, this is one of the, I think, beautiful things about comedy, which is the world you're in. Like, it is social commentary. You know, every joke has a kernel of truth. Some have more than a kernel, and some are just like, you know, you've had posts, and I can't call up any that like, there's no punchline. It's just saying what happened, and it's a cartoon, and then
yeah,
people, totally. It's an uproar. How do you balance the political side or the stuff that is going to rile up with just more Pringle Man?
I think that it's interesting because different crowds have come to me from different things. So there's like this crowd of people who have, I think, come through political comics. There's one part of my audience that's also come through candy hearts. Yeah. There's another part of my audience that's come through just silly shit. And then there's another part of my audience that's come through nudes of the Pringle Man. And those four groups, which I would say are and fans of the band as well. And those subsections of people do not agree on a lot. And so I've made the decision that I just have to do what I want to do and what I think I'm in the mood for and hope that people stick with it. But yeah, I've certainly noticed that when I post like political comments, sometimes someone who just followed me for Candy Hearts is like, what the hell is going on? You know, like I followed you for cute relationship commentary, but I don't know. I just have to keep, I like that comics is just a place for me to just do whatever I want. And there's nobody telling me what to do. And I'm trying to keep it that way.
Also, I want to say there's a great comment from Erica, which said, she said, there's a lot of overlap between fans of the band and fans of the Pringle Man.
Agreed.
Which I think is accurate. That's a very tight little Venn diagram.
Well, and the Pringle Man also started as a Van Doodle. I don't know if you remember that. Like the first time I drew the nude Pringle Man was probably 7 years ago or something.
I think I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, it was a Van Doodle. Someone I need to reach out to them, and I talked to them at one point like a couple of years ago. Just they reached out again, being like, by the way, that was my request. But they had tweeted what's actually in a can of Pringles, and then I drew the naked guy crawling out, and yeah, that was how it started.
You mentioned Candy Hearts. Do you want to talk about? I mean, we are here talking about. I hope this helps, of course. But you're in the process of another. Is this public knowledge?
It's like semi. You know, I might as well just spill the beans on here because everyone here is very nice. I think. But yeah, I just got the test printing of it the other day. But very excited about Candy Hearts. It's my second book, and it's coming out in the new year. And I think pre-orders launching in December. But some of you probably already noticed because if you Google or if you search my name on a book, any bookseller site, it'll come up with Candy Hearts as well. So on Amazon, Candy Hearts is already up there, so it's not much of a secret.
But please buy both from Politics and Prose. Support your
Agreed.
All All right, we got time for a couple more questions. Let's see what we got. Oh, someone wants to know, on the spectrum of how much you like your comics, where does the turkey hand turkey fall for you?
That's a 10 out of 10 for me. I like that one a lot. It's hard to do comics that like straddle that line of like kind of gross but also kind of cute, and I think that one straddles that. I think that one straddles that line, and it's always also very satisfying when you can come up with a holiday cartoon, because every cartoonist in the world has done a million holiday cartoons, and if you can come up with a new one, it feels very satisfying. Like every Christmas joke that could have ever been made has already been made. So it's very exciting when you can come up with a joke about a holiday that hasn't been done yet.
It's like trying to write a new Christmas song.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
What are you trying to say?
I don't know. Let's try.
Merry holidays. Okay. Do you struggle with meme accounts that repost your art without credit? Do you think it, I mean, I know you do. This person's also asking, do you think it brings you to a wider audience? And I'm going to expand the question to be like, how aggressive are you about it now? I know you used to be more, but what's the mechanism there?
Yeah, I mean, those meme accounts are, I mean, if they tag you, that's great. But 99% of the time they don't tag you. So they're just, you're counting on somebody like zooming in on the image and being like, oh, at Tommy Siegel, like I'm going to type that in, so nobody does that. So I don't love the meme accounts, but there's a handful that actually like repost and give credit, and those are great.
So funny. That shouldn't be something to be cheered. Like, just give artists credit.
It's not even, that the crazy thing is it's not like it would hurt the post in any way. It's like, it just takes 2 seconds, but yeah.
Alice asks, I liked hearing you talk about music's place in social media. Has the pandemic changed how you feel about being an artist, drawing and singing on social media?
I mean, it certainly reiterates for me that it's a visual medium. I feel like musicians are dealing with this all the time. I mean, I had a cartoon that I had started sketching on my iPad that was like, God, it was about being a musician and optimizing yourself for Instagram. And it's like, why not, instead of posting about your new record, why don't you post a picture of your butt? What kind of one of those things. But I feel like, Ben, you know this too. It's like every musician we know struggles with this because we're expected to use social media to grow our audience, but the medium itself is not designed for it. And so you're constantly running uphill trying to figure out visual ways to get somebody's attention on a medium that is purely visual and really not designed for music. So nothing's changed in that regard for me in the pandemic. I mean, live streaming and stuff is a good tool, certainly, but that was there before.
It is funny that how long do you think, and maybe you know this, people look at each cartoon before moving on?
I have no idea, but if I had to guess, I would say 4 seconds.
4 seconds. So the musical equivalent would be writing a 4-second song a day for 500 days and hoping they catch. It's funny. It's like, you can't compete.
Yeah.
Doing that thing you.
Well, and by the way, a lot of you in the comments probably know this, but Ben has been doing an almost daily piano noodling thing where he gets on Instagram Live and Facebook and YouTube and improvises piano for, I mean, is it a set length? It's kind of changes, right?
30 minutes each. Since we've been in the studio, I haven't done it, but
yeah.
As soon as we sort of click print on this bit, but yeah, I think
that's a good use of social media though, because it's very raw.
Yeah. And I knew, like, heading into quarantine, that if I didn't want to have some sort of structure and some creative outlet, even just for myself, I would kind of lose my mind. And it was, I mean, very much inspired by you being like, I'm gonna do this. I need to be creating. And I remember when you started working on the cartoons, I think you had an uncle or someone that said when you were a kid, you were always drawing. Do you remember this? Is this something? Yeah. And I remember you connecting that to this and being like, and deciding to make a change of like, I'm just going to start drawing all the time again, because that used to make me really happy. And I love that you followed that into this like thing, this like, you know, when something goes and it takes control beyond. But I think, you know, artistry and no matter where, you know, what time period you're in, you just got to do it. That's half of it. It's
Yeah.
showing up, you know?
For sure. But I guess a part of the difficulty with music on social media is that it's very disposable medium. It's meant to be, right? It's like, it's just like, here's a picture of my dog, blah, you know, just like quick bursts of ephemera. And so, yeah, music is a very time intensive activity to make a good, well-produced song. So I think it's very smart that like you really leaned into just the rawness of just like performing at the piano. That makes a lot of sense for like, if you talk about playing to the medium, that's like a way to play to the medium.
Yeah. And it's funny. There's no pressure on it. I can't, you have pressure. You have to deliver now. I've designed a space where I can, but that's part of improvising, right?
Yeah. I got to deliver the yucks.
You got to deliver the yucks. I think we are at our last question, or here we are. Yeah, I think that'll probably do it, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really beautiful to end on the creative process. And just speaking of quarantine, we here at PNP do like to ask our speakers, is there anything you're currently reading besides, of course, I hope this helps, that you'd like to suggest to our viewers?
Well, hold on. Let me go find my books.
Well, I haven't actually picked it up, so I can't recommend it yet. But I actually, funnily enough, Ben gave me this book yesterday that he was recommending. Okay. It's a fantasy book, but I'm in the market for some good escapist literature, and this seems to fit the bill. I've been reading way too much election news, so.
And I've been reading. So I have this guy, which admittedly is sitting next to my bedside. So I'm feeling a little more like intense. This is where I go. Otherwise, I'm reading Sarah J. Maas, Maas. It's like. It's young adult fantasy fiction, and that's my escapist literature. So those are the things I'm reading.
Well, thank you both so much. And I will mention you can get both of those titles at Politics and Prose as well. We really want to thank Tommy Siegel and Ben Thornewill and all of you out there watching for joining us. Your patronage and dedication enable us to bring you this kind of amazing discussion, and we wouldn't be able to host these types of events without the book sales to support them. So please run, don't walk, to purchase a copy of I Hope This Helps, Comics and Cures for the 21st Century Panic, and Candy Hearts. You can put it on pre-order for when it publishes. And you can also visit politics-prose.com, where you can also visit our events calendar for updated listings and everything else we've got coming at you this winter. From all of us here at Politics and Prose, we hope you are out there staying strong, staying safe, and staying well.